Awesome, let's go. It's really weird. It's like talking to a screen, but I'm really glad to be here. I will be talking about building modern modular web applications, apps for short, I guess. I am Daniel Madalitso Phiri, as Ryan said. You can catch me online anywhere as Mao Gambes. I do developer relations at Strappy, and occasionally I'm a disc jockey on Mixcloud, so you should check me out too. So just like a warning, there'll be a lot of Lego references, and this is like an inside joke at Strappy. Everything is awesome. So I hope you're ready. A bit of an overview of what we'll be going into today. We'll be talking about like content workflows and looking at room for improvement, and then going to like what my modular or utopian idea of modular creation looks like. And then I'll be giving you like a really quick, deep, strappy 101, and then a quick like look at a Gatsby implementation of this modular workflow, and then more room for improvement. I left everything really vague, like with the hope of having all your attention and hoping that you can stay to like find out exactly what all these vague words mean. So fingers crossed. So yeah, let's get into it. Content workflow overview. Content is like a lot of things. A lot of people really just assume that like, when people talk about content, it's like blogs, but like content is blogs and event sites and portfolio sites and streaming sites and e-commerce sites. And I think you get the idea. Content is everywhere, right? Yeah, it's everywhere on the web, but creating it isn't very efficient. Like the GIF says, everything is not awesome. Yeah, so this is my depiction of what like current workflows look like. So you have a couple of actors here. You have like developer teams, content teams, you have a CMS, like a web app, and end users. A usual workflow is like, hey, we want to create a web app that has some content on it. It's, for starters, the developer team and content team coming together and deciding, hey, what type of design do we want our application to have? What type of like schema, content schema do we want it to have? And they have all these conversations, and the developer team goes and builds the said web app. And then after this, the content team adds data to the web app. The CMS delivers the data to the end user through the web app, and that's that. But the problem comes when you want changes, right? So, hey, we have this really cool content app, but can we add a new banner or a really cool image or a couple of images or a carousel? And it's more conversation again between the developer team and the content team. And it's like, hey, we need these changes. You talk about redesigning, you talk about redevelopment, that happens, and the developer team goes out and builds like another iteration of the web app, and then the content team does the same thing, and for something else it happens again and again, and it's a bit repetitive. Obviously this is an issue, and a lot of times you are left feeling like again everything is not awesome, and you just want to like throw your laptop. So there's definitely room for improvement, or at least I think there is. There's a few things that I think um, oh wait, something happened that was not supposed to happen. So I have an what's it called? A browser add-on that shuts down my browser tabs when I spend too much time, like when I don't use them after like a bit of an activity. Okay, cool. I guess we can carry on. Cool. Okay, yes, a few things. So just like a quick recap, because I think I lost you in my train of thought. Bad feeling, everything is not awesome, lots of room for improvement, and a few things that we could probably improve. So we want to like redesign a couple of things, like there's probably a lot of redesigning going on, probably a lot of redevelopment, and probably too many meetings too, right? And that's horribly inefficient. So let's crash the system, or at least I say let's do it. I love this, Jeff. So this is me really just presenting my sort of modular creation and what this utopia. Although I don't like to use utopia because I think it's very possible. Some spoilers, it's built with Strappy dynamic zones. And this is where like the modular part comes in. So dynamic zones let us build modular pieces called components that we can fit into the application at like development time. And then whenever like content creators are doing some work, you can really just plug that in because your web app's already built to take it in. So if you want anything new, you can define like a component or like a module and have the web app have the functionality to accommodate that. And you don't have to go back and forth saying, hey, we want a carousel in the web app. The web app already has it. All you have to do is go to your CMS and add content for the carousel and it will appear. I have a really cool demo that I'll show you. So yeah, look out for that. So this is an idea of like an overview of what my modular approach looks like. Like I started with in the other depiction, there's always the developer team and the content team talking. But in this conversation, it's a bit different. There's a little bit more foresight, like, hey, what might we need? What type of components might we want to plug in later on, right? And the developers go ahead and build that modular piece into the web app. And in this case, that's a Gatsby app, which I'll be showing you soon. And the web app is built and the content team adds content. And through the CMS happens to be Strappy this time. The content is delivered to like end users. And now we're stuck at the point where we need changes. We want a new carousel or we want a banner in our web app. We already have that module, that component in our web app. So the content team doesn't have to go to the developer team and say, hey, we need this. All they need to do is go to the CMS, click a button, and the new functionality is added to the web app. Super cool. And it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. Like, it's much easier. And now I guess it's time for the Strappy 101, a very quick one. So Strappy is a headless CMS. It's open source. It's got a fully customizable API. It's self-hosted, 100% JavaScript, has a really nice plugin system. Sorry, and uses GraphQL. So that's always cool to have. And when I say headless, I mean it delivers content to any front end via an API. So you have all your content in the CMS and you can deliver that to mobile applications, to a backend. You can call an API with an API and do some funny mixtures with it. Or you can have a bunch of like IoT wearables and even websites. So it's really, if it can, consume an API, then we've got you covered. And that's really the beauty of the headless like systems. And yeah, so to run Strappy, all you have to do is yarn create Strappy app with your project name. I already have Strappy running, and we will be switching to that. Hopefully, I won't bore you. Is that it? Where is that? Okay, my bad. This is it. Okay. So like immediately you run the command I just said. This is what you're brought to. I wanted to do that because I didn't want this to feel like it is like pre-planned too much. Okay. Oh, it stopped.
Yeah, it stopped sharing the screen.
Okay, let me just do that again. Okay.
There we go.
Where was
Thank
I?
you.
Yeah. No worries. Sorry about that. I think I was too like mouse happy and closed something down. Okay.
It
So
happens to
here we
all of
are.
us, the best of us.
So true. Yeah. So here we are with the command to like create a new Strappy project. Yarn create Strappy app and your project name. I created one already and immediately you run that. It builds out your admin UI. And let's just create something really quick here. I hope yeah, the same password. It's pretty, I thought so. All right, that's no. Cool. We've created a new user and like this is the Strappy dashboard. So we want to create our first content type. Let's name this portfolio. Typing is terrible. So we can create a few collection types. We can have like simple text. Let's name, we want to be able to like display our name, and then we'll add another field to like describe us, or like have a bio field. We'll have that text also and name that description. I'm trying to do this as quick as possible because there's like a ton that I need to cover. Let's just finish that. And then we have the first two fields, but now we can get into what I was talking about in terms of like the modular parts of everything. We can create a couple of components. So let's save that first. The server restarts and it shouldn't take much time. And then we create a couple of components. Like I have this live. You can't create. Oh, the demo gods are not with me today. That's fine. I'll give you. I was smart and thought about this already. So we already have everything here in my production Strappy app. We have a portfolio content type, which has our name, our description, and a dynamic zone called Legoland, keeping on the Lego theme here. And we have three components here, and these are really the modular parts of our application. So anytime in the content creation process, we have the ability to add either an image, a quote, or a social media link to our application, our Gatsby application. And these are all things that you can define when building out content. And I'm sure you can see the components here. This will probably not make a lot of sense now, but I want you to keep and pay particular attention to the names. So image, quote, and social media. I'll just say this again so it sticks. We can add either one of these in our application. And I will go back to the slides now. Yes, a very unsuccessful demo. It's like I predicted it. So let's talk about our Gatsby implementation now. I started out with this really basic default Gatsby starter. And it's basically just, hi people, welcome to my Gatsby site. And we want to be able to create something like this with Strappy. So there's a few things that we want to do to get there. We want to get Strappy connected to Gatsby for a start, and then we want to display some data from Gatsby. And then we want to add a dynamic zone to the project. And I'll try and blaze through this. So to get started, get Strappy connected. We use the Gatsby source GraphQL plugin, and we use yarn add Gatsby source GraphQL to install it. And in your gatsby.config file, you add a few things. So type name, Strappy, and your field name should be Strappy. These are really important because they help you query, and that makes sense when I show you what our GraphQL queries look like. And also really important is your GraphQL endpoint. Strappy's GraphQL endpoint by default, if you don't change anything, if you don't feel adventurous, is always localhost 1337/GraphQL. And you add this to your Gatsby config.js file, and that sets up the Gatsby source GraphQL. And you can query your Strappy API from within Gatsby now. So this is what our query looks like. This is how we get some data. So in index.js, this is like your homepage in your Gatsby app. Remember again, the field name is Strappy, and that's what we use. We created a content type called portfolio, and that's what contains our name and our description. And this is what we use to query our name and description. This is a GraphQL query. And that's done. And then this is really just rendering your data. Again, in index.js, we just use the map function and have res to display our name and our description, and that will make sense when I show you the actual application. And then now we add our dynamic zones. So for Strappy dynamic zones, our implementation uses union types. So we use like conditional fragments. This is really just like saying on Strappy content modular image, meaning it's if this component exists, then these are the things that you should return. And we do that for every component that we have. Remember, I asked you to remember, like at least try to remember the names of the components. So we have the image, the quote, and the social media components. And then this is really just the layout in the schema. And then this is how we query our dynamic zone. So that's the GraphQL query, again, in index.js. And this is us displaying it. And then this is the, I guess, modular approach to displaying that data. Just like we conditionally queried the content with like conditional fragments in the GraphQL query, we also conditionally render this. There's like a couple different ways of conditionally rendering data in React. You can use like switch cases, if else statements. My logic here really was just checking if the type name in the result for the dynamic zone equals the type name I'm expecting. So if this is true, using that operator, then everything else is true. And that will be like everything in the header, like in this tag will be rendered. And this is really just what I used to sort of create components or sections of my web page that I like to call like dynamic zones. So if this data exists, then let it be rendered. If it doesn't exist, nothing goes wrong. So this is just conditionally rendering data. And yeah, this is how my very hopefully cute portfolio turned out. But we're not done. Gatsby is a static site generator that like updates content on build, so everything seems to be cancelled. Except it's not. We use webhooks, and then everything's awesome again. So another demo. I should probably offer some prayer to the demo gods this time. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Cool. So we have our portfolio site, and I have my Gatsby app, all in production. This is on Netlify, and this is on Heroku. So we all have like an idea of how everything looks at the moment. I've written my code once, and I want to add like more content. So in like my Strappy content manager, I will add more content. So here is like the modular part. We add the Legoland, which is the name of our dynamic zone. And like right now we have the option to either add like an image, a quote, or social media. I feel like the image is the hardest to like, or would make more sense to render, and let's try that out. I have a couple of things. Please don't judge my Strappy stickers. So let's just say chill as a caption and save this. So this will take some time because Netlify has to build Gatsby again. I will just go back to Netlify and show how the webhooks actually work. I'm not sure if I can do that. Should I trust you and show you my webhook links? Cool, okay, that was quick. I don't think anyone saw that. So this is what you do. You just create a new webhook. You can call it like Netlify trigger and get your URL from Netlify. I will go and do that also. Okay, there it is. Add build hook. So you add a name here. You can call this like Strappy, Strappy trigger, and you can choose a branch to build from. And once you press save, you get like a URL which you add to Strappy here, and you can subscribe to certain events. So I want like an entry so that every time I create, edit, or delete something in Strappy, a build is triggered. So let's give this a refresh. I think the deploy should be done. There we go. We have chill showing up. So Ryan, I don't know how I'm doing on time. I want to like add something else. Is that okay?
Yeah, you have a few minutes, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A.
Okay, great. Hopefully Netlify builds much faster. So like currently you can see I have a section here that says I have Twitter. So let me add another like social media like link. So what is this called? What else exists? I have Instagram. I do have Instagram. What is my Insta? This is me just plugging my social media, but please don't actually check out my Instagram.
It's all good.
Um,
That's part of this. That's one of the benefits. Plug away.
yeah, I wish I was more active there. Okay, cool. So I hope I can actually show this if I go to like my deploys. So yeah, it's building and it was triggered by Strappy content update. So let's wait some time for it to actually build. And yeah, I don't know. I wish I had like dev jokes. Um, Maybe one about Netlify builds or Gatsby builds. I don't know.
Well,
There's something there.
while it's building, if anybody in the chat has any questions, now might be a good time to start throwing them in chat. And Daniel, we can relay them to you if you can't see the chat.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah, so the
Yeah,
first thing,
builds.
I guess I'll ask a little bit of a question, and you sort of explained it, but I just want to make sure I understand this correctly, is that essentially what's happening is Netlify is waiting for Strappy to send a request that says, hey, content has updated here. And
Yeah,
then so essentially that's just triggering the build like as if you merged a PR on one of your Git repos that's linked to Netlify, right?
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, like with Git repos, Netlify subscribes to, changes in the repo and then rebuilds the whole application. And it's the same thing with like a build hook, with the webhook. So you can add that anywhere and sort of trigger updates and like builds on content changes, I guess. So
So
yeah,
I would imagine that GitHub might be using webhooks under the hook here too, right? For the same reason to let Netlify know, hey, it's time to build again.
probably, yeah. I think that's how it worked initially, and then they like abstracted all of that and just made it a really nicer experience.
We have one sort of question from the chat from Emily, and
Yeah.
this is a joke. She says, "What did one API say to the other?" The answer is nothing. There was a CORS error.
I like when testing this out, I had that, so I feel that. But hey, okay, wait. So our build just finished, and
Cool.
apparently I have Instagram. So yeah, there we go. Dynamic content on a static site and modular. Um, that's it with my demo. Let me finish up. This one wasn't as much of a disaster,
Sure.
but
Yeah, no, that was great.
yeah, I guess there's room for improvement. I don't know. You tell me. So this is like a work in progress, and I think it's pretty cool. And it definitely works better with like single page applications because there's not like you don't have to trigger builds and once updates come in, you refresh and you have those displayed. So I think this would work really well with something like Next. I've definitely done this with Next, and I'll leave this in resources. But it still works with static sites, so that's cool. And I promised resources. If you need any resources, I'll leave this for some time and maybe answer any questions that are there before I say thank you. And please share your thoughts.
Thanks so much,
But there's
Daniel.
that, just in case you need it.
Yeah, that's
Thanks for
awesome.
having me.
Yeah, and
This was fun.
let's leave that up because we do have a couple questions in chat. So the first
Okay.
question we have is by rebuilding the whole application, what would happen with a big site in terms of performance and server load?
Yeah, that would be terrible. But no, like honestly, it would be terrible, even just like on the server. And like, there's two ways to approach this, to be honest, for a Gatsby site specifically. I use Netlify because it's a much more approachable alternative to the other option, which is using Gatsby Cloud. So Gatsby, I guess, has incremental builds, which make everything much faster and don't necessarily rebuild the whole application, just the parts that changed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how it works. And yeah, I didn't want to sort of like restrict everyone to use Gatsby Cloud, and that was my thought pattern with Netlify. But yeah, so the answer is yes.
Yeah, I
Like
think
rebuilding the application isn't the best thing.
but like you said, I think the cloud service has some sort of diffing algorithm where it's rebuilding as little as possible to try to redeploy the site. So I think there's some efficiency there. But yeah, if the site's huge, it's probably going to be
and the long build. So
yeah, just check your bill.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question we have: say you installed Strappy on your own server. In what format is the content saved, and how simple would it be to preload content directly into the database?
It's a really good question. So when you have data in Strappy, it's stored in the database. You have like a lot of options for what database you can use. There is MongoDB, there is like MySQL, there is a Postgres database. On Heroku, I'm using Postgres, so that's sort of how my data is stored. You do have options to migrate using the CLI. You can migrate data from like database to database, but that's from like existing databases, like existing Strappy databases to like another database. You can't really like have something that's been sitting for a couple of like years and try and make Strappy work on top of that. I don't know if that makes sense.
Gotcha. So you can't take like say you had a legacy database and you wanted to start using Strappy, I guess, to populate content into that database. If I'm
with a lot of scripting, with a lot of scripting it would work, but it would be much easier to just like start from scratch.
And I guess in that case, if you say had like a MongoDB, like you're saying, you could always use some sort of like GraphQL middle layer to get info out of Strappy and out of your legacy DB potentially, right? That could be a solution here.
Yeah, I think I've seen people in the community do that. I wish I had links, but yeah, someone's probably done it. People try the nicest things.
So it's possible. That sounds like an answer.
It's possible.
So, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to the next talk. I'm gonna just switch scenes here and stuff. So thank you so much, Daniel. There's some good feedback in the chat.
Having me.
People enjoyed it. So thanks so much.
I hope so. All right.
All right.